It is 2024, and still, if you look at almost any list of top photographers, award winners, or brand representatives, women are still underrepresented at best, and sometimes not even mentioned at all. But statistically, women are half of photographers, and if you spend any time looking at photography like I do, you'll know that they're every bit as talented as men, and often better. Yet, if you check your social media feeds or see who's being published, the images tend to be more frequently taken by men. This isn't an issue that will disappear on its own. That's why I'm actively seeking out photographers from backgrounds and perspectives that differ from my own. Their work isn't going to be shown to me through an algorithm or of mass media, so I need to do my own research, and I'm sharing it with you so you can learn along with me. Because seeing photographers from a variety of gender identities, races, nationalities gives us a broader perspective of the world, ideally building empathy for people living experiences that differ from our own. This, to me, is where the power of photography lies as a medium. So in honor of International Women's Day, let's talk about 10 women working today around the world who are creating impactful photography. Canadian photographer Meryl McMaster's photography is strongly linked to her ancestry, Nehio or Plains Cree, British, and Dutch. McMaster's photos are stunningly vivid and highly detailed. Through her self-portraits, she explores the complexities of identity along with connections to nature and culture. Her photos are rich with color and texture. There's a pensive quality to her photos, and each image warrants a long viewing to take in all the detail of scenery, costume, and makeup. Each element holds significance or tells part of a traditional story of the various cultures that make up her ancestry. She blends these elements together in a way that tells a very specific story, her own. Xyza Cruz Bacani has been called a modern-day Vivian Maier. She was working as a nanny for a wealthy family in the Philippines when she began spending her free time in the evenings doing street and documentary photography. But this is where the comparison ends, because instead of working her whole life in anonymity like Maier, she began showing her work and winning awards at a young age. While still practicing street photography, a lot of her work has turned to more long-term documentary and photojournalistic projects. In one series, she documents the lives of domestic workers, many who fled abusers. Bacani is someone to know and follow as she continues to tell important stories. In 2016, Dutch photographer Merel Schoneveld picked up a new lens for an old camera that she had lying around and went outside to test it out. She immediately felt drawn to taking photos on the streets. Now, she had no formal training in photography and at the time no knowledge of street photography as a genre. And it could be that unfamiliarity with street photography that led to such interesting and engaging compositions. Schoneveld is one of my very favorite street photographers working today. Her images are unexpected, and she has an excellent sense for creating complex compositions. It's rare to me to see a photographer whose work is continually surprising, so be sure to follow her to see what's coming next. Yagazie Emezi is a photojournalist based in Lagos, Nigeria, with an impressive list of publications who have featured her work, including the New York Times, Newsweek, Time, Washington Post, so many more. In 2019, she became the first Black African woman to photograph for National Geographic magazine. Emezi's work, in her words, focuses on women, identity, and culture around the African continent. I followed her work on TikTok for a few years, and in addition to her outstanding photography, she shows amazing clips and behind-the-scenes footage of what it's like working as a photojournalist in Africa. Must follow. Great photographer, cool person. Fatima Schbair is a Palestinian photojournalist based in Gaza City. She began her adult life studying business at Al-Azhar University in Gaza, but after 3 years, it became clear that her true calling was photojournalism. In 2019, she began an independent study in the field, and by 2020, she was taking on assignments for the likes of the New York Times and Getty Images. In 2022, she won an award from World Press Photo for this image of Palestinian children in Gaza. Just a beautiful photo. Schbair is now a staff photographer for the Associated Press, where she documents the current events in Gaza. Follow her on social media to see some of the most important work in photojournalism happening today. Avani Rai is an Indian documentary filmmaker and photographer based in Mumbai. Rai's work has explored the vulnerability of the women and children of Kashmir and, as she states, quote, denial of home as a form of violence, exclusion, and cultural erasure. In the Western world, our vision of India is highly influenced by Western photographers focused on bright colors and portraits framed in otherness. The work of Avani Rai forgoes this oversaturated outsider view in favor of black and white that focuses our attention on the people so that we can connect with them in what feels like a more personal way. Avani Rai is the daughter of famed Indian photojournalist Raghu Rai. She calls him an influence in her choice of career as he photographed her every day as a child. She also created a documentary about him titled Raghu Rai, An Unframed Portrait. Dr. Wang Preston was born in Henan province in China to a family of medical doctors, and that's what she set out to be. And while she did earn a bachelor's in science in 1999 and qualified as a practicing anesthetist, she changed her career path to photography, earning a PhD in the medium in 2018. I love how her work brings together humans and nature, showing us how they influence each other in such a highly industrialized country as China. Wang Preston has lived in the UK since 2005, but many of her projects are based in China, the most ambitious of which is titled Mother River. Between 2010 and 2014, she traveled along the 6,300 kilometers of the Yangtze River, stopping to photograph every 100 kilometers with a large format camera. The images take us from the source of the rivers in Qinghai province to the mouth in Shanghai and the East China Sea. You can see all 63 images from the series on her website. Born and based in Buenos Aires, Argentina, Daiana Valencia is a documentary photographer focused on, as she states, quote, long-term projects about human rights, identity, and memory in Argentina and Latin America. Valencia's work is full of vibrant color and depth. She draws us visually into the community she's photographing by getting up close and personal with her subjects. She's a member of Women Photograph, a catalog of independent women and non-binary photojournalists, and Fotofeminas, a group that promotes female Latin American and Caribbean photographers. Be sure to follow Valencia and all of these groups to see some amazing photography. Sofia Verzbolovskis was born and raised in Panama and currently resides in New York City. After earning a degree from NYU in 2009, she studied photojournalism at the International Center of Photography. For one of her earliest projects out of school in 2013, Verzbolovskis returned to Panama to document the city of Colón in a project titled La Tacita de Oro. The images show the heart and determination of people living in very difficult conditions. Verzbolovskis' work is full of vibrant color, depth of composition, and dynamic light as she travels around the world telling stories of various cultures. She's had solo exhibitions in both Panama and New York City, and her work has been featured by publications such as the New York Times, Washington Post, and the New Yorker. My introduction to the work of photographer Tajette O'Halloran was her series titled In Australia. I can feel the nostalgia in these photographs as O'Halloran works to capture the essence of her teenage years spent in the Northern Rivers region of the Australian state of New South Wales. Another dynamic long-term project of O'Halloran's is called The Quarry. It focuses on an abandoned brickworks quarry where youths head to swim. The images feel quiet, pensive, and personal as we meet the locals who frequent this rural swimming hole. Her work is featured internationally in publications like the British Journal of Photography and the New York Times. She's a member of Oculi, a collective of 18 Australia-based photographers who focus on narrative storytelling. Thank you so much for watching. I have links to everyone's social media, websites, and everything that I've mentioned here. If you have any other people that you think I should check out, drop their names in the comments. I did my very best to do the pronunciations, and so please correct me if I made a mistake, but also know that I tried really hard. This sort of thing is important to me. Thanks.